Juliette Buffington Enslow, born March 9, 1873, daughter of Peter Cline Buffington, first mayor of Huntington. Her family have lived in Cabell County for 4 generations. Her roots in this area are deep. Her first husband, Charles Baldwin, produced a son of the same name. After the death of her first husband, she remarried to Frank Bliss Enslow, a gas and oil businessman in Huntington. Mr. Enslow left his property and assets to Mrs. Enslow after his death in 1917. Mrs. Enslow had several servants in the manor. Her son Charles Baldwin and housekeeper Elizabeth Bricker all frequented and lived in the same home.
I heard of the Juliette Buffington case a couple of years ago. A student was doing research on this topic on a bunch of different various murders on campus, but this one specifically, I know that it was an unsolved murder. I do know that it involved like a family dynamic. There was a family dispute potentially, and I think because women typically ran the household, I think she was administering some kind of medication for her son, and allegedly he might have been the one that did it, but we don't know that answer.
It's the morning of October 17, 1936. The Enslow Manor, home to one of the most prestigious families in Huntington, stands proudly greening the day. Elizabeth Bricker is just waking up. A chauffeur, Judge Johnson, approaches Elizabeth with an unusual object in his hands, a pocketbook belonging to Mrs. Enslow, found on the ground outside the manor. Mrs. Bricker becomes worried and walks to Mrs. Enslow's room. Mrs. Bricker discovers the battered body of Juliette Enslow in her room. Her throat has been strangled. Her head has bruising on it. There are 2 small holes that indicate the use of an ice pick on her skull. The son of Juliette, Charles Baldwin, is immediately notified. Police are called and begin their sweep of the home. Juliette's jewelry and other immediate valuables are missing, including a wristwatch and several rings. 2 rings she wore personally to bed were worth $5,000. Judge Johnson is questioned and shows the spot where the pocketbook was found. The exact spot is just under a window with the bug screen removed. 2 of Juliette's less expensive rings are discovered around this spot. Juliette's body is taken to Coroner F.X. Scholler for examination. His ruling is that Mrs. Enslow had been beaten about the head, strangled, then an ice pick or other small object had been driven into her skull. Due to the missing jewelry and nature of entry into the home, local police publicly state their belief the murder was also a robbery.
Two rings of Mrs. Enslow's were found to be missing during the investigation, and one of them was bequeathed to Charles in the will, so it already was gonna be his. Apparently, Charles only had one leg, and this was from him getting hit by a train when he was younger, and because of that, he had a very severe codeine addiction. Supposedly a very severe codeine, morphine addiction that he spent a lot of his allowance on and was consistently asking his mother for more money to support his drug habit. And, her son was called into the room and he states that he immediately picked his mother up, cradled her, and that's why her blood was on his pajamas.
This piece of evidence is what leads police to arrest Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin is brought to trial. The prosecution Colonel George S. Wallace stated, "If the circumstances show guilt, we expect you to find the verdict guilty as charged." The defense headed by John H. Leake points to evidence of robbery and an addiction to morphine. Elizabeth Bricker is brought to testify. She is asked about the morning of October 17th. Mrs. Bricker claims that Charles Baldwin, upon learning of his mother's death, stayed in her room with her body, alone for 3 to 4 minutes. He then returned to the hall. Mrs. Bricker was questioned multiple times about Mr. Baldwin's morphine use. She claims they had never thought about dosages before. Charles always received his dose from his mother at noon. During the trial, Dorothy Louise Enslow, Mr. Baldwin's half-sister, daughter of Juliette and Frank Enslow, sat with him at the defense table, joined shortly after by Peter Klein Buffington, their uncle. A nurse who happened to be staying in the nearby home was brought forth as an eyewitness. She testified on the night of October 16th she had heard a woman scream and seen a car parked in the alley behind the Enslow home. She recounted how there had been a tapping noise shortly before the vehicle sped off. Charles Baldwin is sentenced not guilty on March 25, 1937. 4 years after Juliette Buffington Enslow's death, a strange thing occurs. Behind the Enslow mansion on February 27, 1940, a ring is found. One of Mrs. Enslow's most expensive diamond ring is found sitting in a catch basin, described as a large diamond solitaire set in black onyx. Many speculators thought it unlikely that such a ring could have survived there for 4 years, especially after a flood took place in 1937, affecting the area around the Enslow home. After this discovery, the case was not reopened. Charles Baldwin fell into obscurity, while the murder of Juliette Buffington Enslow remains to this day unsolved. After her death, she was buried in Spring Hill Cemetery next to her second husband, along with several of their children, where they remain today.
About this case specifically, our students in general take a lot of interest in the Herald-Dispatch files that we have. Quite often, actually, since we got to acquire them. There are, I think, a lot of not unsolved murders, but there are a lot of gems in terms of like things that have been undiscovered, in terms of like people and places and scenarios or maybe specific topics. I think that students are taking deeper dives just to see what all exists based on topic, which